Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast with Kimberly Brown. I am so excited to be here today. I have a very special guest, Alistair Edwards. Y'all, I need to run down his bio because he has receipts. So we're going to talk about his background. 27 years in grocery retail, and it don't look like he's been here for that long, y'all. Just saying. 18 years with LegalShield, a Millionaire Club member, Southeastern Regional Trainer, Trainer of the Year, former board member for 100 Black Men of Atlanta, past president for National Sales Network, the Atlanta chapter, which is one of the biggest chapters. And y'all know that I've been a part of National Sales Network as well. That's where I met him. CEO of Stairsteps LLC, a sales training and speaking company, and CEO of ATEAM Consultants LLC, a life and health and benefits company. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime. I've been able to admire your work from a distance in National Sales Network, the Atlanta chapter. People have talked a lot about your leadership. How long were you president?
It was 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
2 years. Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about your journey to being a leader and a President's Club member in the sales industry.
I think it starts early.
Early? Okay.
You know, as a child growing up in Jamaica, I worked with my mom at her store.
Okay.
She had a craft shop, and I used to work behind the counter starting at the age of probably about 7 or 8.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I did that for quite a while. And then when I moved to America at the age of 14, started working with public supermarkets.
Okay.
Did customer service, worked with a stock crew, leading a stock crew team.
Okay.
And got into management with them. But in between that, also sold books door to door in college. So
really,
everything I did had some form of sales in it.
Interesting.
My first summer selling books door to door, I probably knocked on 2,000 doors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel that nervousness? I think with that door to door, like in person sales like that.
I guess in the initial, you know what I mean. When you first start out, you first have that nervousness, but after you do it a couple of days, it's just routine. It's just part of what you do.
So how did that transition into like that first sales job? Like the first, like the big one?
First sales job. Well, my first sales job really was independent, running my own business. Because like I said, I did 27 years with Publix, so I really was in an employment situation there.
Okay.
But I think your biggest sales job is whenever you have to sell yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, indeed. Yes.
So whenever you're looking for that next promotion or that next level of engagement, with a company or organization, that's where the sales starts. It starts by your performance, by what you do.
Got it.
Right? And understanding what the philosophy is of the organization or the desire of the company that you're working with.
Got it. It sounds like you always felt like you were a salesman, like from the early days.
I don't know if I ever categorized myself as a salesman. I always felt like I was a blessing to others. Let me put it that way.
I like that. Can you explain a little more?
So no matter what I got involved with, I always felt that if I gave my best, it would be a blessing to someone.
Okay.
Right? So when I was in the grocery store, I know if I had the cleanest stores and gave the best customer services, right, I was blessing my customers.
Yeah.
And that's why I had great customer service scores. I knew if I was working with my employees and trying to work on getting them promoted and doing a good job of preparing them for promotion, I was blessing and enhancing their life. So I think when I left Publix, I probably had the best record for promotions of minorities in the company into management, right? And that's just stuff I had pride in. It's just knowing that everything that I did was really to serve somebody else. I learned that early from my parents, right? It was never about what you can get, it's what you can give. Right? And the more you help people be successful is the more successful you'll be.
I love that. I think as an entrepreneur, one of the things that has helped me in selling is when they say you sharing your gift is helping others.
Yeah.
Like it's not about making money. It's not about the prestige that can come if you hit your goals or your revenue or all those things. Your product or service has to serve someone. And the more you serve, the more you make an impact. That's where you concentrate versus just thinking about selling to get numbers and enrollment or the number of products you can sell. It sounds like that's what you're kind of saying too.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of my favorite phrases is mission driven, not commission driven.
I like that. Okay.
Right? If you're going after the sale
and
just concerned about getting somebody to write you a check, 9 times out of 10, you didn't take the time to find out what the purpose of them purchasing your product was.
Got
right?
it.
What's the mission? Right? So I always tell people, no matter what you're selling, figure out what benefit it serves.
Okay.
Right? And then figure out how do you feel that need, that benefit in the customer's life. Communicate that to them, and price is not a problem.
That's so interesting. I think that also clearly explains why I probably didn't like my roles in sales. So early on in my career, I tell the story in my book. I used to work in the financial services industry as a banker. And it was all about selling. It was all about hitting the quota. You had to have a certain amount of checking accounts, a certain amount of mortgages, a certain amount of loans. And if you didn't hit that number, it was just about getting out a PIP, a performance plan. That's all it was. And I couldn't stand being commission driven, or in that case, it was quota driven, or you lost your job. But you're kind of switching that and saying, no matter what you're selling, whether it's yourself, whether it's a product or a service, it's more about the mission, it sounds like.
Yeah. So I may be wrong, but based on what you just said, I would assume that your supervisor probably told you, hey, you need to have 100 accounts open by the end of the month.
Yeah, or you're going to be on this PIP.
If I was your supervisor, I would say, hey, you need to help 100 small businesses be successful this month.
That's a completely different feeling.
It's a different value.
Because then I feel like it makes people in the sales industry potentially sell unethically.
Yeah.
Because you need to hit the accounts. It's like, do whatever you can to get these accounts, no matter what, or you're not going to have a job. So it didn't matter. The people didn't matter. And I think that's the part that always hurt me. I loved having the conversations. I loved talking to different people. I loved learning about their families, but it wasn't rewarded if you didn't get that sale.
Well, here's the funny part. You spend so much time trying to force someone to get a loan with you or do business with you, right? You eventually get that customer.
Yeah.
And it's a 50-50 chance they were unhappy with the experience because they felt forced or they have buyer's remorse.
100%.
Whereas had you taken just that same amount of energy to find out more about their business and how your system can help better their business, that person would turn around and give you 3 or 4 referrals.
Oh my gosh. It feels so different to me even now. Like maybe I would have stayed in that daggone job. I remember sitting with my customers and my manager would be in the next office, like listening to make sure I went down the list. It's like, make sure you do this, make sure you do this, ask this question, essentially making sure you recommended every possible product. And if you didn't ask all the questions, even if you knew they didn't need it, you'd be in trouble because you didn't do their process. There used to be, I won't name the company because, we're being nice, but there used to be videos on YouTube making fun of this bank, of making people go through the questions even if you knew they didn't need it.
Wow.
It was such a process. But I may have stayed because when I did hit commission, I made good money.
Yeah.
But when I didn't, it was that threat of a PIP that made me end up leaving. So the one thing I always think about when I think of sales is about cultivating really fruitful relationships. And right before you came on today, we kind of talked about that. Can you tell me, not necessarily about the importance of fruitful relationships, because, I drill that into everyone's minds, but about how you go about making that connection with people to create that relationship?
Well, I think once you understand the importance of relationships, you realize that relationships are more valuable than anything else.
Yeah.
Right? So I was taught early, I was taught a phrase early: access and inheritance will always outproduce hard work and education.
Access and inheritance.
Access and inheritance will always outproduce hard work and education. Meaning if you have access to the right people, right, or you're in the position to inherit something, it's a lot easier to get that goal accomplished than to go through the hard work and education process. So my dad always told me, go to school, get a good education, work hard, you want to have good grades, but what I want you to work on more than anything else is your relationships. Because the nerd on campus today is going to be the president of the bank tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And so because you treated him good in college, when you now need something, you don't have to go through all the application process. You call him up because, hey, we have a relationship. I have access to him.
Yeah.
Right? And so, I always use this example. If you look at the election when it was between Bush and Gore.
Yes.
You remember that?
I definitely do.
By popular vote, who won the vote?
Oh, gosh.
It was Gore.
Yeah.
Right? Technically, he won the election.
Yeah.
And then on a Sunday, they decided, well, Florida numbers look kind of shaky.
Yeah, Florida's always shaky.
But who was there? His brother was the governor.
Exactly. Oh, my gosh.
Right? His dad was the past president.
Yeah.
So his dad calls the Supreme Court and they meet on a Sunday. First time ever in history. Yes. They meet on a Sunday. And we wake up the next morning and our new president is George Bush. And no one could do or say anything about it, right? Because who was the more educated one out of the two? I would say Gore.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Who worked harder on the trail?
Yeah.
I would say Gore. So hard work, education.
Yeah.
He had those two factors, right?
But
who had the inheritance?
Bush.
He inherited the presidency. Who had access to the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Access.
So it won.
every time. So, I always tell my kids, look, don't ever mistreat anyone because you never know where they'll be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? Never look down on anyone because you never know where they'll be tomorrow. And you always want to have access and inheritance. And people always ask me, well, Alistair, you teach sales, you train on sales, will you teach us on cold calling? And I can't. I don't know how to teach cold calling because all of my business is based on relationships.
And in cold calling, you can't have that.
Yeah, it's all from referrals.
Yeah.
Right? Once I figure out the need of a customer, I close the deal with them. I'm going to ask them, hey, who else do you know that you would like to see be just as successful as you? And, how can my services help them?
I really like that because I think when people think of networking, many times they think of how many people can I acquire? Like how many people can I just get in my network? But it comes from almost like an inauthentic perspective, like going to National Sales Network, just going around passing out a business card, shaking all the hands that you can, but they don't necessarily deepen. I think it's one thing to be nice to people and get the golden rule, right? To always be kind. But I think it's another thing to kind of dig a little bit deeper so someone can give you that referral. And it sounds like that's the difference a little bit with that access.
Yeah.
Because I think some people think access is just walking into the room, but you have to get a little bit deeper. Like even meeting you, like we've had a few conversations. This is probably our longest conversation, but we've always had a good camaraderie whenever we met each other.
Most definitely.
And that allowed us to work here. I had no problem DMing you on Instagram. I'm like, will you be on my podcast?
Yeah.
Because we had the rapport and it was more than me just shoving a card in your hand.
And because of the rapport, I had no problem saying yes.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You learn that in network marketing. So you think about it. If you look at a multi-level marketing system, right? One person joins the business and all they tell you to do is, I need you to get three people.
Friends. Yep. Go get 3 of your friends to come do this.
And then all I want you to do is tell those 3 people to get what?
3 more friends.
3 people. And then you tell those now 9 people to get what?
3
more people.
And then it
before
builds
you
up
know
the
it,
organization.
my organization, my network marketing team right now is close to 10,000.
Wow.
Right? I would say I met personally, probably 20% or less.
Wow.
But income is generated from all 10,000.
Wow. Right?
So it's just understanding that's why relationships are so important. It's not who you know, it's who the person you know knows.
Yeah, I always tell my clients that whenever you meet someone who you want to be a mentor or a sponsor, just in general, ask them, is there anyone else in your network who you feel would be beneficial for me to meet with? Because that extends your network even more. I know one of my favorite mentors, I asked her that question and she introduced me to 3 more people. One of those 3 is the reason why I did so well in higher education.
Wow.
He reviewed every single presentation I did, looked over my resume, critiqued me hard. Because in higher ed, when you get to certain level roles, you have to do these 45-minute presentations of a new strategy or whatever it is. And he made sure that I never shared too much. I didn't share too little. And he knocked me out the park every single time.
Priceless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would have never known him if I didn't ask that question.
Yeah.
And he had no reason to be kind or do this for me, but it was because of the person who introduced. He's like, oh, if Kimberly came from them, not a problem, I got her.
Right. And all I want you to do is add one more phrase to that when you ask people. Like,
oh, yes.
Right. Who's it that you think I should know? And who's it you think that I might know that I could introduce you to?
I love it.
So it's a reciprocal relationship.
Mutually beneficial.
Right.
Oh, I love that. Okay. I learned something, y'all, and I appreciate that. So you mentioned it briefly. You've obviously had a very impressive career, but you've launched businesses. Tell us about your businesses.
So I have a company called Stairsteps, Alistair. Yeah, you know.
Yes, I like it. I like it.
Stairsteps LLC. We do sales and sales training.
Okay.
And marketing. So we go to companies and teach their employees how to sell whatever product or thing I've done sales training for real estate companies. Okay. I do sales training for LegalShield and their sales department team. I also have an online sales course. So it's a course where you simply just sign up. It's a 13-module course. Okay. Where I teach you everything from prospecting, right? Negotiating, how to build a relationship with the customer, how to close the deal.
Got it.
How to follow up.
Okay.
So everything's in that module, in that course.
So how would you know when you need a sales trainer? Like how would you know that this is something that you need?
If your sales, whether it's a service, a product, right, course, whatever it is, if your sales aren't where you think they should be or where would you like them to be, then there's obviously something missing and you should have a sales trainer. And
would that be for professionals or would it be for entrepreneurs?
Professionals, entrepreneurs, I've done everyone.
Okay.
All right. Yep.
Is there a certain area that you feel is the hardest that makes you not close at the end? What piece of the sales process?
Again, it goes back to being mission driven. Okay. Right? If you understand, 2 things you need to understand is what is your mission?
Okay.
Right? And what is your customer's mission? If you understand what your customer's mission is, you can relate your product to them achieving their mission.
Got it. And that's, I'm assuming, for me, I think that's probably during your prospecting, like when you have those initial conversations, it's not just pushing your product, it's about understanding their needs, like needs assessment. So when I speak to my corporate clients, the first conversation we have, our discovery conversation, is all about needs assessment. What do you need? Why do you need it? What have you tried before? All of that. So then I can recommend.
And not asking those questions will push your customer away.
Yes, because I think you're just pushing.
I give you a perfect example. When my son was getting ready to be born, I was driving a 2-door Toyota Supra, right? So I knew I needed to get a different car.
Yes.
So I decided to go to a Ford dealership. First Ford one I pulled up to, I parked next to the Mustangs, got out of my car, and before I got out, a guy walked up to me. He said, "Hey, man, that's you right there." He pointed to the Mustang. He said, "That's you right there, bro. That's what you need right there, man. What we got to do to make this deal happen today?" Right? I said, "Look, bro, no problem. No, thank you." I got back in my car, and I drove. I went 12 miles down the road to a different Ford dealership.
Really?
Just because I just didn't like the way I was approached immediately.
Okay, yeah.
It just so happened I parked again by the Mustangs, got out. A different guy walks up to me. He says, "Hey, sir, thank you for stopping by today. I just wanted to introduce myself." He says, "My name is Don Peterson. If you ever need anything or have any questions, just give me a call." And he walked off. So I'm walking around, I'm looking at cars, and then all of a sudden I said, "Don, let me ask you a question." He says, "Hey, before you ask," he says, "we may not even have what you're looking for. So tell me a little bit about yourself."
And you're sitting there like, okay,
I said,
ready.
"Well, getting ready to have a child, I definitely need a different car and all of that." He says, "Okay." He says, "You don't look like the minivan type person, but I may be wrong. Am I correct?" And I say, "Yes, definitely." He says, "Well, look, you're pretty tall. I would recommend you look at the Explorer."
Okay.
So we went and looked at the Explorers for a while. He says, "Nice car, seats in the back, everything. It's a good place to grow your family." He says, "But before you decide on that, I'm not sure if it's within your budget, but based on your height, you might need something taller. Let me just show you the Expedition."
Okay.
So he takes me over to the Expeditions. He tells me all the features of the Expedition. What did I walk out of there with that day?
An Expedition.
Fully loaded, full price.
Of course. Of
right?
course.
Why? But was I sold?
No.
Or did he tell me he allowed me to choose?
He allowed you to choose.
He allowed me to choose, right?
Based upon your needs.
Based on my needs.
Yeah.
It was an enjoyable process. I actually feel like he listened to me. He knew about my family now.
Exactly.
The other guy, all he wanted to know was, "Hey, that's for you."
Exactly.
When I got a 2-door speed car already. I don't need another 2-door speed car.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to build a 5. He never even stopped to find out if I was, what was your purpose of stopping in today?
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes I think in sales, we get so eager or so happy that someone says we'll listen to you, that we throw up all over them what we have, what our product is, and never take the time to figure out what the need is of the customer.
I love that. And this is applicable to anyone, essentially. It doesn't matter if you're actually selling a product or a service, or if you're selling yourself and looking to build a relationship.
Yeah.
I love that. So as we get to a close, what's next for you? What's going on? How can we support you?
Like I said, my online sales course. So anyone that's struggling in sales, you can click any of my links and you'll get the link to my course, my sales course. Definitely get that out. It also gives you 4 hours of personal coaching with me. So once the course is completed, right, we do 4 one-hour sessions of personal coaching to where I can deep dive into whatever business it is you have and figure out how we can 10x that business.
I love it.
And then I have ATEAM Consulting is where we do life and health insurance. So we do that also, and legal benefits. So we have, that includes our LegalShield and identity theft protection, right? And one of my goals is my goal is to have 10,000 people get their wills filled out this year. Whether they do it with me or whether they do it on their own, I don't care. But I'm just tired of seeing our people pass away and give everything back to the state.
Yeah.
Right? So I hear it all the time. You get invited to a funeral and the first thing they want you to do is donate to the GoFundMe.
Yes.
Right? Because they don't have a final expense plan.
Yep.
Right? And then only to find out that everything they had now belongs to the state. The kids don't have access to it because a simple 5-page document. Think about it. 5 pages.
Yeah, it's not
5 pages of handwriting could have dispersed all of that the way you wanted it to be dispersed. But we failed to do that in our community.
Yeah.
So we definitely got to do that done. So the biggest way people could help me is get their wills done. Whether they do it with me, where if you do it with our LegalShield product, it's a $29 a month. But we do your will, your living will, and medical health care power of attorney for free, updated every year for both you and your spouse. That's all included in the membership. Or you can go to an attorney, spend $8,000, $2,000. I don't care how you do it.
As long as it gets done.
As long as you get it done. Don't do that disservice to your family.
Well, we are going to put all of those links in the bio, and I probably personally need to speak with you as a new entrepreneur. I am setting all of those things up for myself, so we probably need to have a conversation when this ends.
Most definitely.
But we thank you so much for being here. And where can the people find you? So give us your links. Tell us where to go.
On LinkedIn, it's Alistair Edwards. That's Alistair Edwards. And then my Instagram is alistair.edwards.
All right.
So alistair.edwards.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Nah, the honor is mine. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. So y'all, with that, we are going to wrap for today. May your next move be your very best move. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to the Your Next Move podcast. Don't forget to share this episode with a colleague or friend so we can all level up together. If you enjoyed today's episode, please write a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And lastly, if you're looking to join a community of thriving professionals, I invite you to join the Next Move Best Move community, my private community of professionals that includes the Manifest Yourself signature leadership development courses, monthly lunch and learns, and more. For more information, please go to KimberlyBeOnline.com/community. Until next week, remember to make your next move your very best move.